Welcome to the Daily Debrief, where we take a look at today's big story. I'm Jordan Gardner, and today's topic is ghost guns in Nevada with reporter Sean Delancey. Sean, what is a ghost gun, and what's up for debate right now here in Nevada?
So essentially, in a broad term, it's any untraceable firearm. It doesn't have a serial number on it that can be tracked by the ATF. But more specifically, what we're talking about here is unfinished lower receivers for a rifle and unfinished frames for a handgun. Essentially, that's what all of the other parts, the barrel, the trigger, everything else is attached to. That's the only thing, once completed, that the ATF considers a firearm legally. So if, say, for example, that lower receiver or frame is not completed, the ATF doesn't consider it a firearm. So it doesn't have to be tracked. It doesn't have to have a serial number on it, and it doesn't need a background check to be sold in the United States like every other firearm from a factory, for example. So the Nevada legislature is trying to ban the possession or sale of so-called ghost guns here in Nevada to make sure that every gun that is in Nevada can be tracked if it's used in a crime by police, for example, or that they know that the person who bought it went through a background check to be able to use a firearm. It takes some very simple modifications to turn these unfinished lower receivers or frames into working firearms.
How did you start covering such a topic here in the state?
Yeah, I've been on the legislature the entire time, and I actually did a story about this particular bill, AB 286, earlier in the legislative session when it was a much broader piece of legislation. Originally, it also was trying to give criminal penalties to people who carried guns onto properties that had banned guns on their properties. This was supported by the casino industry because they wanted to make sure that if they banned guns inside of the casinos, they could call the police and have that person taken away. That part of the bill was dropped. And then this last Friday, the bill with the remaining pieces, the ghost gun pieces, cleared another major legislative hurdle. And with about 2 weeks left in the legislative session, it was time to do another update.
And you've already brought up guns straight from the factory. Are ghost guns causing more concern, say, than those guns coming from the factory?
Well, I mean, for Democrats, at least, there is concern about your standard serialized firearms that come from the factory. That's a much broader conversation that we don't have time to get into now. But for them, yes, ghost guns are causing more concern because they are becoming more prevalent with technologies like 3D printing, for example, that can make really strong polymers, and they can knock these things out really quick and then sell them. LA statistics show that in the year 2000, of the guns that were recovered by LA police, there were 0 ghost guns recovered. Now it's about 40% of all firearms that are recovered by police are untraceable so-called ghost guns. So that's why it's causing a lot of controversy here in Nevada, where they're trying to get on top of it before it becomes much more common. And we see a lot of guns that police can't trace back to owners or anything along those lines if they're used in crimes.
And what is the overall feel when you've spoken to local leaders when it comes to voting on this bill?
That definitely depends on who you talk to. When it passed out of the assembly, this bill went right along party lines. 26 Democrats voted yes, 16 Republicans voted no. So we've already gone over why the Democrats are concerned, but the reason that the Republicans are opposing it at this point, and fiercely so, is that they're afraid that this could ban all guns without a serial number on them, period. Make it illegal for you to own them and make it illegal for you to buy them or make them. And Senator James Settlemeyer, the Senate Minority Leader, said, for example, his dad found an old 38 Special along the side of his ranch, and that's become a family heirloom. It's going to be passed down to the family. That one was made back when they didn't serialize all of the guns. And so this bill would effectively make that gun illegal, which is a problem for Republicans. And it also would make that if you wanted to make your own gun, you would have to actually get a manufacturer's license to legally serialize it and make it a gun that can be traceable, which is not the case now. There's a lot of hobbyists out there that just make their own guns. So they're pushing back hard, saying it's violating Second Amendment rights.
And when can we expect a vote to come down, and kind of what's next?
We don't know exactly when we should expect a vote. There's not another hearing that's been scheduled in the Senate Judiciary Committee where it sits right now. It could come to the Senate floor at any time. And if it does want to get passed, it's going to need to do so quickly because there's about 2 weeks left in the session.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you, Sean, for the extra info today, and further coverage on this story will be on ktnv.com.